The Raw after SummerSlam, Claudio comes out in his nice suit and his brand new Intercontinental title. He goes to cut a promo with the subject being, "What are your plans now as the WWE Intercontinental Champion?" Again, just for an idea, his promo could go something along the lines of this: Macho Man Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, Ricky Steamboat, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. These are few of the names of many legendary wrestlers before me who've held this title. And when these legends held this title, they went into this ring and had the best match on the show, showing the world that they were the best pro wrestlers on the planet. And I want to honor their legacy. So, every week, on either Raw or SmackDown, and on the pay-per-view events, I'm going to hold an open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship. And I promise all of you this: as long as I am the Intercontinental Champion, you are going to get the best wrestling matches you have ever seen. Because I believe I can bring out the best in every wrestler I face. And I believe that I can beat any wrestler in the world. Oh, and this open challenge starts right now. He drops the mic, rips open his suit to reveal his wrestling gear, and then waits for a challenger. After a moment, a challenger comes out, and it's Kofi Kingston. Claudio and Kofi have an amazing 10-minute TV match. It's a showcase of Kofi's talents as well as Claudio's, but more importantly, it's a showcase of Claudio's amazing superhuman strength. In the end, Claudio beats Kofi clean and retains his Intercontinental Championship. After the match, Claudio offers Kofi a handshake. Claudio accepts the handshake and then takes Cesaro's hand, holds it in the air for the crowd, giving his respect as well. Then, as Kofi leaves, Claudio is attacked from behind by The Miz. He beats him up some more, and then he grabs the microphone and says something along the lines of, "I am getting my title rematch at the next pay-per-view Night of Champions because I am a megastar. I fight on pay-per-views. I hope that you're still the champion come Night of Champions because I want to win my belt back by beating you and prove once and for all that I am the star, not you, and I deserve all the attention that you're getting." Miz drops the mic and leaves in frustration, all the while Claudio is staring back at him with rage. Then, as the weeks go by, Claudio defends his Intercontinental Championship every week against mid-card talent. You know that whole US Open Challenge thing that John Cena did in 2015? Well, I'm gonna yoink that gimmick and bring it back to 2014 and give it to Claudio. And I want Claudio's IC title matches to be like 10-15 amazing matches that steal the show, both on TV and on the pay-per-views. In every match, I want Claudio to make his opponents look very strong, so in the end, when Claudio wins, his victory means that much better because he beat a tough opponent. Every match is also a showcase of Claudio's talents as well. Present his top-tier athleticism and wrestling ability, but most importantly, have Claudio showcase his amazing Superman strength. Literally, in every match, have Claudio pull off this amazing, freakish power move that gets the crowd jumping up on their feet. At the end of every match, Claudio offers his opponent a handshake because he's a very respectable man. I also want his matches to tell the story of Claudio's strength is so godlike and his wrestling ability is such top-notch that truly no one is capable of beating him in a wrestling match. That way you highlight Claudio's greatest strength, which is his ability to deliver in the ring, while also creating this larger-than-life aura in that he is a living, breathing Superman and he is capable of outpowering everyone and out-wrestling everyone. So his weekly title matches take place, beating all comers in the manner that I explained earlier. Then we get to the Night of Champions pay-per-view and the title rematch between Claudio and The Miz. The Miz attacks Claudio before the match even starts, so essentially Claudio has to wrestle the match with one arm. Miz exploits the damaged arm the whole match to keep that unfair advantage, but then Claudio powers through the pain like a superhero, mounts a big comeback, and hits The Miz with a big, freakish power move. He then swings him around in the giant swing, and then after that, he locks The Miz in the sharpshooter submission and makes The Miz tap out in the middle of the ring. Claudio defends his championship successfully in convincing manner. After the match, Claudio offers The Miz a handshake, to everyone's surprise. Despite Claudio's hatred for The Miz, he still wants to show him respect because he brought it in the ring. But Miz, like a douchebag, blows off the handshake and leaves. Then Claudio continues to defend his IC title every week on TV, and then we get to the next pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell. And his open challenge is answered by Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler grabs a microphone and says something along the lines of, "Claudio, you've been killing it every week, man. You've been beating old comers and bringing respect to that title. But Claudio, I'm the best in the world. That title should be around my waist. So buddy, let's go to war." The two men have an amazing 15-minute pay-per-view match, and in the end, Claudio beats Dolph in convincing fashion. Claudio offers a handshake to Ziggler, who accepts it, and then raises Claudio's hand to show respect as well. Then Claudio has more open title matches every week, leading up to the next pay-per-view, Survivor Series. And during the lead up to Survivor Series, Claudio gets into a feud with Sheamus. Sheamus says, "Claudio, a fight between you and I that deserves to be on pay-per-view. So I hope you don't slip up and lose that championship in the next few weeks, because I want to fight you at Survivor Series." During the build-up to Survivor Series, Sheamus has his matches immediately after Claudio's matches and wins them. But there's a clear dichotomy between Sheamus and Claudio's wrestling matches. Claudio's are fair, exciting, and valiant, whereas Sheamus wrestles like a big, bad bully. He beats his opponents up in such unnecessary fashion before ending them with a vicious brogue kick. In fact, Sheamus goes too far in one of his matches, beating up his opponent even after the match is over, which leads to Claudio to come out and make the save and send Sheamus packing. This act of disrespect adds a bit more venom between their little feud going into Survivor Series. The two men finally clash for the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series, and the two men beat the living piss out of each other. It's an aggressive, violent affair. And in the end, Claudio gets a convincing win, swinging Sheamus around and then planting him with a big Alpamare water slide for the clean 1, 2, 3. After the match, Claudio and Sheamus shake hands. Despite their personal feelings, both men earned each other's respect after going through such a hard-fought, drag-out brawl. Then Claudio continues his weekly open challenges and wins them successfully until we get to the next pay-per-view, TLC, and his open challenge is answered by Luke Harper. Harper comes out and cuts this creepy yet intelligent promo. He outlines a very detailed description in how he's gonna dissect Cesaro, tear him apart, and become the new Intercontinental Champion. And so the two big men have a brutal clash that goes for like 15 minutes. And in the match, Harper stays true to his word. He literally targets every single limb of Claudio, trying to tear down the Swiss Superman. But of course, Claudio powers through the pain, fights back with everything he's got, and then beats Harper in convincing fashion. After the match, Claudio offers Harper a handshake, who just looks at it, and he's just like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah." Harper then walks past Claudio, leaving him hanging, and exits the ring, still going, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah," as he walks up the ramp. And Claudio is standing there just like, whatever. And then we move on into Royal Rumble season. Claudio keeps defending his title every week and wins in convincing fashion, and during the lead up to the Royal Rumble, Claudio wins a qualifying match to enter the Royal Rumble match. He grabs a mic and says, "When the Rumble comes around, I'm going to defend my IC title successfully, and then I'm going on to win the Royal Rumble match, and no one is gonna stop me." Something along those lines. Then we get to the Rumble pay-per-view itself. Opening the show is Claudio's Intercontinental Open Challenge. The Open Challenge is answered by Big E, who at this point is going through this jovial, happy-go-lucky phase with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, before they eventually turned into the New Day success story they are today. So Claudio and Big E get into a 10 to 15 minute powerhouse fight, because Big E is a very strong wrestler as well, so let's showcase that. So after a kick-ass match of the two men just throwing each other around like nothing, eventually Claudio gets the convincing win, once again swinging Big E around in the giant swing over and over and over again before planting him with a big Alpamare water slide with a 3 count. After the match, Claudio offers a handshake to Big E, who accepts it gladly. Kofi and Xavier, they slide into the ring and they shake Claudio's hand as well, and then all 3 members of New Day start doing this happy-go-lucky dance. To which Claudio eventually joins in as well, and all 4 men are doing a nice little dancey dance, because it might come off as cringy, but I think it would be fun. We then get a backstage segment with Claudio walking back to his locker room until he is confronted by the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar. The 2 men just sort of size each other up. They look at their belts. Brock then says, "Hey kid, just watched your match tonight. Good job out there." Claudio nods and then says, "Thank you. Good luck in your match tonight." Brock goes, "Please, I'm the WWE champion. I don't need luck. Unlike the IC champion though, right?" Brock then gives Claudio a playful slap to the chest, but clearly that slap was a lot more aggressive than it should have been. Brock goes to leave, but then Claudio grabs Brock's arm and then whips him back around to face him. Brock is shocked that this even happened, and then Claudio gets into his face and says, "Don't ever do that to me again." Brock, all pissed off now, he gets in Claudio's face and says, "What are you gonna do about it, boy?" The 2 men have an intense stare down, until Heyman gets in between them and is like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." Heyman tries to reason with Brock and it's just like, "Hey, Brock, you gotta focus tonight. You get a WWE Championship match, a triple threat match between John Cena and Seth Rollins. They're 2 tough competitors. They require your complete focus. Forget about Claudio, he is none of your concern. Focus on what's happening tonight." Brock is like sort of half listening to Heyman, and the rest of his attention is just at Claudio. He's just chomping at the bit to fight this guy. Claudio, seeing all of this unfold, just sort of smirks and then says to Brock, "Good luck, champ." And then he just walks away, leaving Brock just being like, "You son of a..." Then we move on to the main event of the show, the 30-man Royal Rumble match. Claudio enters the match at number 3, and he goes the distance. He essentially wrestles for like an hour and goes toe-to-toe with every single participant in the match, showcasing their talents as well as his own. This is very reminiscent of Ric Flair's Rumble performance way back when in the 1992 Royal Rumble. He came out at number 3, wrestled for like an hour, fought every other wrestler in the ring, persevered throughout the whole match, and eventually won the whole thing. We're gonna do that with Cesaro. So Claudio endures the whole match, and then he makes it to the final 2, with the other person being Alexander Rusev, who at this point was the US champion, and he's also this undefeated Bulgarian monster. So a face-off with the mid-card superhero champion and the mid-card supervillain champion, I think that would be really cool. So the 2 men have like a 5 to 10 minute match within this Royal Rumble match. Rusev tears down Claudio like a massive brute, and Claudio fights back like an undying superhero, and eventually Claudio gets the upper hand, giant swings the Bulgarian brute around for a good amount of time. And then as Rusev is like using the ropes to get back to his feet, Claudio charges forward and then hits Rusev with a big running uppercut, sending Rusev flying over the top rope, eliminating him from the match. After an hour-long classic performance, Claudio wins the Royal Rumble match. Claudio grabs the mic, looks into the hard camera and says, "Brock Lesnar, see you at WrestleMania." And the pay-per-view ends with a backstage shot of Brock Lesnar watching Claudio's victory celebration with a sort of like sadistic smile in his face, whereas Heyman is standing next to him watching the celebration with a face that's just like, oh, we might be in trouble. On the Raw show, after the Royal Rumble, Claudio comes out in his suit, in his IC title. He grabs a microphone and says something along the lines of, at WrestleMania, I will be facing the toughest opponent in my wrestling career, Brock Lesnar. But Brock, at WrestleMania, you will be facing your toughest opponent in your entire career. Me. Know this, Brock. I will win. I will outpower you. I will out-wrestle you. And then I will defeat you. And WrestleMania 31 will end with me standing over your prone body, holding up in the air in one hand the Intercontinental Championship, and in the other hand, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And in that moment, it will be clear that I am Claudio Castagnoli, a man who can beat anyone and everyone in the world. Then Paul Heyman comes out and cuts a promo that is very complimentary of Cesaro, complimentary of his work and his capabilities. Heyman goes on to say that Brock is a fan of creating big money moments, and he believes that such a moment will occur between himself and Claudio in their title match at WrestleMania. But then Heyman says that Brock would like to create another big money moment with Claudio before WrestleMania. Heyman then proposes a contract signing between Brock Lesnar and Claudio Castagnoli for the WWE Championship to take place at Fastlane, the next pay-per-view. Claudio accepts the proposal, and then Heyman smiles before leaving. During the lead up to Fastlane, we get the usual weekly open title matches with Claudio. He beats all comers very successfully. Then Fastlane comes around, and the pay-per-view opens with Claudio's Intercontinental Open Challenge, which is answered by Stardust. He comes out and cuts this weird promo saying that the safety of the cosmos and the space-time continuum can only be assured if he wins the Intercontinental Championship tonight. I don't know, something along those lines. Then Claudio and Stardust have a great 10-minute pay-per-view match, showcasing Stardust's unique wrestling offense and of course Claudio's superhuman strength, and in the end, Claudio wins the match convincingly. Giant swing, Alpamare water slide, 1, 2, 3, woo! After the match, Claudio offers Stardust a handshake, who accepts it in a very weird sort of way, and then he proceeds to Spider-Man crawl to the back or something. I don't know, something weird that Stardust would do. Then we get to the big contract signing for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania 31 between Claudio and Brock Lesnar. As the two men sit down, Lesnar says to Claudio in a brash tone, "Hey kid, just watched your match earlier today. Took you a lot longer than I thought to beat that guy, Stardust, whatever his name is. If it took you that long to beat a guy who's half my size, what chance do you have against me?" Claudio grabs a mic and says, "Stardust is a lot tougher than he looks. Don't underestimate Stardust, and don't underestimate me." Brock is looking slightly annoyed in Claudio's response. Heyman tells the two men that the contract is ready, everything is set, all they have to do is read through it and then sign off. Both men skim through the contract, with Claudio being the last guy to do it. Before Claudio signs off, he grabs a mic and then says, "Lesnar, you're all about making big money moments, right? Well, I got one for you. Let's make this match winner take all. The winner of this match becomes WWE Intercontinental Champion, as well as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion." Brock is surprised at this, and then he looks at Claudio and says, "You really gonna put your own title on the line when you really don't have to? What are you doing?" Claudio smirks, and then says, "Just wanted to throw in a little incentive, just to make sure that you bring your A game against me." Claudio then puts the contract in front of Lesnar, who is just looking visibly pissed off at Claudio's little jab. Brock grabs the mic and then says, "Okay then, I'll throw in one too, just to make sure that you bring your A game as well. When, and I mean when, I kick your ass and retain my title, you can never challenge for the WWE Championship again so long as I am the champion. Claudio looks down, thinking for a bit, and then after a moment, slowly looks back to Brock, with a look of determination, and then says, I accept. Claudio signs off the contract, gives it to Lesnar, who signs off of it as well. The two men stand up, and have a bit of a stare down, until Brock with one hand grabs a table and then flips it over on one side. Claudio readies himself for a fight, but then Brock just laughs it off, and it's just like, oh, take it easy, kid. Just, wanted to show you what I can do is all. Claudio smirks, and then he picks up the table and just yeets it out of the ring, sending it flying across the entrance ramp. Claudio turns back to Brock, who's looking pissed off once again. The two men get in each other's face, have another stare down until Heyman gets in between them and says, whoa, 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 guys, save it for Mania, save it for Mania. Eventually, Brock listens to Heyman and exits the ring. The segment ends with Claudio standing in the middle of the ring, staring a hole through Brock Lesnar, who is slowly making his exit, and he's staring a hole through Claudio Castagnoli as well. With Fastlane down and dusted, we now move on to the road to WrestleMania. And during the lead up to WrestleMania, the feud between Claudio and Lesnar is going to be built up like a big time UFC/boxing main event. We get vignettes of both men just doing these insane workout regimens and intense training sessions. Both guys are examining each other's wrestling matches and trying to get a good idea of what they're going up against. We get backstage interviews of current and past wrestlers building up both guys. Segments like this, you know, just to build up Claudio and Brock Lesnar as these two gigantic titans who are gearing up for a battle the likes of which no one has ever seen. And for the Go Home Raw show before WrestleMania, we get a big weigh-in event between Claudio and Brock Lesnar. Just one more segment to really give this match a big fight feel. After the weigh-ins, Claudio and Brock have an intense stare down one last time, then suddenly Brock just shoves Claudio away. A legion of WWE officials just rush into the ring and pull the two men away, preventing a big fight from breaking out. The show ends with Claudio and Brock just yelling at each other while being held back by squadrons of men, really hyping up their big match at WrestleMania. Then finally, we get to the big main event match at WrestleMania. The Intercontinental Champion, the Swiss Superman, Claudio Castagnoli, versus the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. The match starts with the two men circling each other, and eventually Brock snatches Claudio for a German suplex. Claudio tries to plant himself in the mat, preventing the suplex from happening, but Brock's strength proves too much, and eventually he lifts Claudio off his feet and he goes for the German suplex. However, Claudio flips over Brock and lands perfectly on his 2 feet. Brock turns around looking completely shocked that this happened, and he goes for a clothesline, but then Claudio ducks under it, grabs Brock in a waistlock, and then boom! He hits Brock Lesnar with his own German suplex. Claudio then proceeds to take Brock into Suplex City, just hitting the Beast Incarnate with a series of German suplexes. The crowd goes insane at this. They just can't believe that Claudio is using Brock's own moves against him. Eventually, Brock scrambles to his feet, he leans on the ropes, selling the suplexes, and then Claudio charges forward and then BAM! Hits Brock with a big running uppercut, sending the big man flying over the rope, crashing onto the outside. Then, as Brock recovers from the outside, Claudio runs to the opposite end of the ring. He rebounds off the ropes, and as he runs back, he dives over the top ropes and then crashes down onto Lesnar with a big cross body. Then from this point we get essentially a comic book level fight. Superman versus Doomsday levels of destruction. Both men just unleash everything and anything they have against each other, and the crowd goes completely nuts for this. Neither man can get a clear advantage, highlighting the fact that these guys are just so epically powerful and they are equals in strength. Eventually, Brock takes Claudio into Suplex City, hits him with an array of German suplexes. He then picks him up for an F5 and then plants him down with authority. He goes for the cover, the ref counts 1, 2, but no! Claudio kicks out at 2.5. Brock then immediately locks in the Kimura lock. He just wrenches Claudio's arm, just trying to break it. But Claudio fights through the pain. Eventually, he slowly gets to his feet, holding Brock Lesnar, who still has that Kimura lock locked in. Claudio then powers out of the Kimura lock, and then he brings Brock over his head, slamming him down with authority with a giant suplex. The two men get into a back and forth, eventually leading to Claudio slamming down Brock with authority, and then he proceeds to hit Brock with the giant swing. The crowd go crazy that they're seeing this move being used on, of all people, Brock freaking Lesnar. Claudio swings Brock around a good 10-15 times before dropping him back down onto the mat. He then follows up with his finishing move, the Alpamare water slide, slamming him down with authority. He goes for the pin. The ref counts 1, 2. No! Brock kicks out at 2 3/4. Claudio, not wasting any more time, goes for another Alpamare water slide, but unfortunately, Lesnar gets out of it and then takes Cesaro down using heavyweight MMA violence. Then Brock looks at his MMA gloves, and then a sadistic smile grows on his face. He then takes the gloves off, slowly, and then proceeds to beat the living piss out of Claudio. Brock is unrelenting with his rights and lefts, to the point where he actually busts Claudio wide open and leaves Claudio a bloody mess. Eventually, the ref dives in between the two men and then forces Brock away from Claudio. The ref checks on Claudio to see if he's okay, and then the Swiss Superman just nudges the ref back, insisting that he can still fight. Claudio crawls to the ropes and uses him to slowly but surely get back on his feet. Brock is looking at Claudio in amazement. He's in complete shock and awe at the Swiss Superman's fighting spirit. As Claudio gets on his feet, he says to Brock, "Is that the best you got? Come on, fight me!" Brock gets enraged and then unleashes more heavy shots onto Claudio, and eventually he picks him up for an F5. However, Claudio fights out of the F5, and as he lands on his feet, boom! He hits Brock Lesnar with a big uppercut. This stuns Brock and leaves him standing, dazed and confused. Claudio sees this, and then boom! Hits Brock in the face with a big boot. Brock rocks backwards, but he's still standing. Then Claudio just does, Rah! Just fires up, and then he hits Brock with a boom! Big discus uppercut. This sends Lesnar staggering back to the ropes, and as he rebounds off the ropes, Claudio then picks him up in a torture rack position. Claudio then proceeds to hit Brock Lesnar with this move. The UFO. Claudio's most amazing move in his arsenal, and he finally unleashes it at WrestleMania against, of all people, the Beast Incarnate. And the crowd lose their effing minds! Claudio then follows up by hitting Brock with a second Alpamare water slide, slamming him down with authority. Claudio then goes for the cover, and then the ref counts 1, 2, 3. Claudio Castagnoli defeats Brock Lesnar in a epic god-tier battle, clean as a whistle. After the match, Claudio stands over Brock Lesnar's prone body, and in one hand he raises in the air the Intercontinental Championship, and in the other hand he raises in the air his newly won WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Claudio poses with both belts to an amazing crowd ovation, with fireworks and confetti going off as WrestleMania draws to a close. The next night on Raw, Claudio comes out in his nice looking suit and both belts draped over his shoulders. He grabs a mic and reveals that he's going to vacate the Intercontinental Championship, saying that he doesn't want to hold that division down while he's the WWE Champion. Claudio then says something along the lines of, now that he's WWE Champion, he can say that he's truly the best wrestler in the world. But he knows he has a lot more responsibilities now as the WWE Champion. He has to represent the company, not only in the ring, but outside the ring as well, whether it be interviews, podcasts, talk shows, and so on. Claudio then says that he has a big journey ahead of him, but he promises us this: he is going to be the best WWE champion that he can be, both inside and outside of this ring. Because that's what this belt deserves, that's what the company deserves, and most importantly, it's what you fans deserve. The crowd cheers for him, and then a big "Claudio, Claudio, Claudio" chant erupts throughout the arena. Then from this point, you give Claudio a main event run with the WWE title, going up against top names like John Cena, Randy Orton, maybe a rematch with Brock Lesnar down the line. You can have Claudio hold the championship up until SummerSlam, or maybe even up to Survivor Series if the fans are still into him as the heavyweight champion. Either way, in this booking, Claudio has been clearly established as a main event player. And then from this point onwards, you can continue to present him as a big-time superstar. Oh, man. That was really long, but man was it fun. So, that's how I think WWE should have booked Cesaro. What do you guys think? If you have any thoughts, feel free to lay them down in the comment section below. But that's all I got for you now. Until the next video, be well, be safe, and be happy. See you guys later.